So I looked into what are sectors of healthcare that are in demand, but have been ignored by most multinationals. That was how I started my journey. So I asked myself, you want to be in healthcare, you don't want to do anything that your day job does, so that there is no conflict of interest. So I avoid that completely. And the next question was, what are areas in healthcare that have been avoided by or ignored by most multinationals? And that got me to orthopedics was one of them. Second was women's health, right? Women's health is big in the West, but in Africa it's quite different. So my pharma interest is women's health. And then the third one was advisory. Advisory because I realized that what makes companies succeed is the fundamentals of business. And most African business do not have those fundamentals. So that advisory spans across everything from soap to oil, right? From detergents or from, fast moving consumer goods to whatever, business is business, right? So I help myself appreciate that in business, you're doing two things. You have a service and or a product that you want somebody to pay you money for. It's that simple, right? So that's the three things we do. So we do orthopedics, we do pharma, interest in that, and then we have interest and advisory as well. So that was my my journey and what guided my view.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I want to be a little bit more specific. So I'm based out of Toronto, Canada. I'm looking for an opportunity back home anywhere on the continent. How do I go about finding you? You know for a fact that you wanted to be in the health space. That's fine. How did you, and the health space is such a wide industry, how were you able to pinpoint that orthopedics was the one? Right. So how, if I'm over here on the west side, or anyways outside of Africa, how do I go ahead and validate, or how did you validate that or find it?
Great point, Aries. There are two groups of people. On one hand, you have the group that already have their idea locked in. They know what they want to do, they know what sector they want to be in, and they are trying to validate that. On the other hand, there are those that have multiple ideas, not quite locked in yet, but still exploring a couple ideas. So I'll start with group one. If you are in Toronto, Canada, or either is in New York City, or Khadija is in, I don't get where she's at right now, Clara is in Germany, and you're trying to find ideas, you're already confirmed ideas. Two things are critical: feasibility studies, market assessment, really, really important, right? And what I call how much gas do you have in the tank to run? Because it will cost you a lot of money and resources. The first one, after the feasibility assessment, is it's really important for this idea that you have locked in to make sure it will work. Most assessments are done with the view of the West, right? You want to launch a business that sells water. In the US, water comes in at home, right? And you want to do that in Nigeria, for example. The reality is that you need to understand, what does water needs look like in Nigeria, or in Cameroon, or in Kenya, or in Ivory Coast, right? Or in Burkina Faso, because they vary. So that idea you have locked in, I would say, validate it on the continent, on the ground, make sure it makes sense, make sure that that's what people really need. Now, for the other group that is still thinking about ideas, the group B, what I would say is spend some time on the continent, and it might help you confirm which idea you want to lock in to pursue. Because there are multiple realities that can give you that eureka moment to really confirm which you want. Iris, does that answer the question you asked?
Yes, that's okay. I wanted to push it a little bit more. If you could give me a practical example, okay? And I didn't mean to spend that much time on it, but I think this is really crucial, right? Because a lot of us, we do have ideas based on either our passions, our experience, our profession. And then you gave me a good tip. You said either you have an idea you want to implement it, move back, or go back to whichever country. But how did you find out yours, orthopedics?
So for me, after I looked at what my old company did, Abbott does pharmaceuticals, medical devices, diagnostics, and nutrition. Those were not on the table for me anymore. I did not want to do that. Then I looked into what are other areas that are on the table, right? That I could start when I was still working at Abbott. Now that I'm no longer with Abbott, I could do whatever I want. I have no clause to limit me from doing that. So for me, I said, okay, what else in healthcare? And I looked into multiple pathways, multiple channels in healthcare. And I asked myself, what keeps people up at night? What are the pain points? Now, when you have malaria, you can take medicine and people are used to it. When you lose your leg or a hand, it's massive. You want your limb back. So we do now, one of our big key pillars now, we provide orthopedic limbs. So we are not orthopedics as surgery and so forth, no. Because there are lots of surgeons out there, but we provide artificial limbs. We give you a hand, a leg, or both that's functional. We go from basic ones to high-end ones. And that is a space that nobody was working on. So for me, it was what healthcare sectors are available, where are people already playing in, where are there gaps, which one can give enough revenue, right? And there were a couple of options, but I chose orthopedic rehabilitation because you have about 100,000 amputees every year in Nigeria, right? You have about 1.6 million Nigerians living in amputation, right? Vastly, it's a big market, but there are few opportunities.